Hi everyone, welcome back to Marching Arts Network. I'm Jen. I am here for another midweek roundup of live drum corps and a recap from the local DCI St. Louis show that I attended last night. We had a bit of a rain delay, so it was a super late night of drum corps as the first corps didn't go on until about 9:45 and the second corps, or the last corps, didn't go on until 11:45. The show was on the Illinois side of St. Louis, and I live on the very far west side of St. Louis. So it was a long trip home. I got home at I think I got in bed at 1:30 in the morning. But totally worth it. Totally worth it. So I got to see some great shows last night and some shows that have changed my mind about them now that I've seen them live. So we're going to jump right into that. On the agenda last night was gold in open class. And then we had Pacific Crest. We had Seattle Cascades. We had Madison Scouts, Troopers, Cavaliers, Boston Crusaders. A great lineup. All of them have really great shows. So I am going to first send out my apologies to Seattle Cascades that my arrival after the rain delay caused me to miss your show because you would have flip-flopped with gold. No offense to gold. I would have missed you had it been kept the same way. So I do not have a good read on Seattle. But in our previous video, Kanan did state that this is his choice for most improved drum corps of the year. So I need to make a point of catching their show. I apologize that I did not get to see it last night. So gold. Gold show does so much more when you see it live. They are a solid contender in open class. They always are. This is that show where I said maybe some of the music wasn't translating to the audience because Sweeney Todd is kind of a talky, singy type of musical. But they do really well to convey mood changes. There's a middle section that maybe isn't my favorite because it's not my favorite part of Sweeney Todd. But they do well to keep the story moving. And it's really exciting at the end. It's a good production. I'm glad that I got to see it live, considering how much I do love the musical Sweeney Todd. So, good job, Gold. I'm glad I got to see you guys live. Let's see. Going on to Pacific Crest. What's Sin, Our Nature? I am a little confused by this show. And I've had a hard time connecting with Pacific Crest shows. I'm going to be very honest. And that I am transparent when I'm not connecting. I don't ever want to say I don't like a show because there is something to like about every single show I see. It's whether I connect with it, whether I get the messaging, I get the character portrayal, I get the emotions. So there are parts that I really like about their show. There are parts that I'm like, I don't quite get it. I think I'm having an issue on the visual side with the uniforms, the tunics that they wear, kind of the long robe tunics. They're a little long. And so the flippy floppy of the hem of it seems to be interfering with the feet. And it's just kind of creating some visual dirt for me. But otherwise, it's a strong production, and they've got a solid horn line. They're growing. They're sitting in 13th place right now, so this is not anyone to take lightly. The only issue that I think that is happening is that they're sitting in 14th. The only issue that I think is happening is there's this big spread between 12th and 13th that is starting to develop. So I'm not sure if Pacific Crest is going to make a serious play for Saturday night this year, but that is no knock against the show. It's an enjoyable show. So, going on. Madison Scouts. Last year's 12th place corps seemed to be on the outside this year. They've got a solid color guard. An improved color guard. They were good last year. They're better this year. So keep up the work. They perform well. They know their character. The props, they're cool when they're alone and they're standing up. You can see the spiral, but they do so much stuff where they're kind of grouped together and it creates a lot of visual mishmash. I'm not quite sure what it is. And there's several points of that in their show where it happens. They used to line them up on the 50-yard line. I'm going to talk about this for a hot second. They used to line them up on the 50-yard line. Now they've got them kind of angles, right? You still have to line them up correctly. Even though you're hiding that by having them on angles. If your prop is over here, it's still, even if it's on an angle, it's still like obviously out of set, you know. And they have a couple moments through their show where that happens. They do a company front of some sort towards the back half of their show where the props are kind of flat towards us in the company front and the horn lines behind, with all the spiraling of the props and all the different colors of the props and all the different colors and the busy uniforms that the Corps is wearing. It's kind of a visual, I don't know what I'm looking at. So I think the biggest elephant in the room for Madison's show this year might be the props, which look kind of cool in standalone moments, but are being utilized in a way that's creating visual dirt. So there are parts that they can clean of that. That would be cool. Like maybe put the horn line in front of the props. That would clean that up nicely. But we'll see. I don't know what the judges are saying. I'd love to hear the visual analysis, Judge David. I'd love to hear that. Going on. Colts. This show won me over live. I still don't like their Corps uniforms. I like a Corps uniform like when Cadets have done it or Velvet Knights have done it. Or I think the Colts did at one point in time where it's a color on one side and a color on the other side, front to back. But the side-to-side color of green and red, it's creating a visual mess for me. And that is me because my friend with me was like, God, I love it. I think it's great. I think they do it really well. So this is my own opinion that my eyes cannot handle it. There are things about the Colts show that I've liked, but as an overall package, I wasn't connecting with it. That changed last night. I really enjoy their show live. It is fun to watch. The kids are playing the crap out of it. They are clearly in 12th place, not 13th. That's what I'm saying. Can they get to 11th? I don't know. But they are clearly safely right now in 12th, unless there is a late season surge by the Scouts. I don't know that Colts will fall apart enough for the Scouts to surge past them. It's just a solid show. I will say, in combination with the Cavaliers right now, the little pennant flags that I criticized in my favorite flag moments that I said I wasn't sure if I liked, both Colts and Cavaliers have cleaned that work up, and seeing it live, I really enjoy those flags. I really enjoy it. They whip around. It's fun choreography because they have these long tails on it. It makes for kind of a visual. I really enjoy those flags now. So good job to the Cavaliers and Colts for cleaning that up. And me being able to get to see it live. I eat my words. I'm on board with those flags now. It is a well-performed show. It's a well-designed show. Visually, the actual drill, it works. The transitions work. Guard choreography, if they're rippling to a side, I understand why. They resolve their design choices. It's a good show. So congratulations to them for winning me over. I'm going to talk about Troopers next because there is a lot to talk about with this show. We haven't been the most kind to this show. And in some places and in other places, I love it. You know, this is a very divisive show for me. So, but thoroughly enjoyed it last night. So again, getting to see these drum corps live is a different beast, a different experience. But I'm going to nitpick a little bit on Troopers here. First of all, you are one of two of my favorite guards as far as improvements. You have done so much with the 1 year. I cannot believe this is the same guard. So great job. You're big, you're bold, you're confident. The choreography is great. You're clean. So I'm really impressed with where Troopers Guard is. The visual package of the design package of their show, you know, they have the huge mountain props that are all in the back. They're very static. They don't move. But the thing that I like about Troopers show, seeing it live, is how much field coverage. They're taking huge risks by spreading their horn line a lot and creating these huge design pieces within drill sets, within this framework of the mountainscapes. And I really, really enjoy that risk. And it just makes these huge, the core looks huge. The guard looks huge. I love it. I've already talked about the opening flag statement. My second favorite is the closing flag statement. Holy smokes. From the minute they come out of the sunburst to the end is just spin, 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 spin. I love it. It's great. Prior to that, the mellows have a sustain. And while I understand the popularity of a mellow sustain now, and I understand the popularity of a loud mellow sustain, this one might be a little bit too loud because it kind of takes you out of the musicality of that moment. I'd love to see them pull that back just the tiniest little bit so it's not as crass in my ear. That could just be me. More people could be like, more. My only nitpick is I'm still nitpicking about that coffin. Last night, it was crooked, off center. Maybe they had a hole, and so they didn't have the right support on that side two part of the coffin. But both times they had to stand there with it, it was crooked, and it was making me crazy. So, it's the same complaint with, Madison's props not being lined up on the 50 correctly. So, I can't handle it. Don't make me stare at a bad set for, 20 seconds. So I hope they fix that. They had a character for a while in the middle of the show that kind of came out and did some movement, and they replaced him with Mr. White Hat at the end, the Ghost of the Trooper. I need to see that character more. You can't just pop him out at the end and be like, ta-da, final sunset. I need more. He needs to be around more. And if he is around more, I'm certainly not seeing it. So, but at the end of the day, they're solidly in the top 12. They're performing Saturday night. They're doing well. It's a good vehicle. I like the show. Good job, troopers. Cavaliers. Cavaliers are my most improved drum corps across the board. They're my selection. Kanan says Seattle Cascades. I say Cavaliers. And it's not about them just being better. It's about the entire package is better. These are my favorite props of any show this year. Love, 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 love the millions of ways they use it. They utilize these props so well, whether they're connected, upright, upside down, U's, M's, whatever they are. They're fantastically used props. The color guard, I think the color guard is like one of the few staffs that did not have a complete overhaul after last year. But it feels like it. They're doing the kudos to the staff. It is a strong choreography book. The kids are trained well. You did a great job recruiting kids. They are kids. These are adults, but they're kids to me. These are strong performers. They are confident performers. They have great technique. The rifles are slapping. I mean, it's I can't believe this is the same color guard or the same group as, bases of last year. They performed so well, and it's so, like I said, I love a strong Cavaliers color guard. It's just, welcome back. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So keep working hard. I'm still on the fence about those cutout flags. They're still creating some visual dirt. They're hard to clean. That's a challenge. Don't do that again. So, but much improved since I saw them in Rockford. I cannot wait to see what the Cavaliers have in store. They will challenge Blue Stars. They will challenge Mandarins. I cannot wait to see this corps again in 2 weeks, because if they've done in 2 weeks to hear, what they've done, can't wait to see them in 2 more weeks. So, great job. That brings me to Boston Crusaders. I liken Boston Crusaders to sitting about 5 rows up at a Formula One race. That flag goes, they get the green flag and they go. And it's 120 beats a minute for 11 minutes. And you are looking all over the place. There's a paper with popcorn everywhere, things to look at. That is a potential recipe for disaster in the wrong hands. I criticized Colts last year because they had so much stuff going on, I didn't know where to look. It didn't work for me. Boston kind of designs the same way. There's little snippets everywhere you look. But somehow it's designed so well that your eye is kind of led to it. the like coming in. It's led fast. You're like, there it is, but it's led to it. So, man, that is one heck of a design. That opening segment where they're all like, shh, oh my gosh, the color guard. I mean, do I need to talk about the color guard? Do I? They're so good and they're so talented and they really enjoy what they're doing. I've had a hot take that I am kind of team blue this year for the Zengali for various reasons. But I'm not going to deny that Boston is an incredibly, probably the most talented guard out there. The most achieving guard out there. But content, it's going to be about who's judging on Saturday night. It's going to, or the who's judging for what qualities over the course of 3 days in Indianapolis. It is a challenge because Blue and Boston's guards are totally different. The twirlers, I love the twirlers. They had, a couple of bobbles last night, but the level of demand between exchanges and the batons are flying all over the place. It's so cool. It's so cool. They everybody wants to talk about the tuba player that throws and catches and all that. But I saw a trick that I hadn't seen before. I wish I had it on video. Where a horn player literally, obviously the guard person's kind of in a wall sit squat, second position squat. The horn player drapes himself across their midsection, hanging on, completely parallel to the ground, while the guard member is throwing a big old fat weapons toss. And the level of trust in that kind of stuff is just out of this world. So another little fun moment that I hadn't seen, because every time you watch Boston show, you see something different. So a shout out to a friend of mine, Mike Davis, who was the percussion judge last night, getting yelled at by a Boston guard member so loudly, excuse me, that you could hear it up in the press box where we were sitting. So also wish I had that on video, but I had just turned my camera off. So that was kind of my take-home fun laugh of the night. Because even though we've taken judges off the field, they are still perilous to the color guard. All right, so we are going to talk about scores a little bit. This is actually day 2 of my video. I decided, because we had a couple shows last night, that I wanted to talk about scores altogether. So the St. Louis scores are going to be a little bit irrelevant in this mix. Well, I take that back, because some cores did perform last night in Evansville and some cores didn't. So we're going to talk about kind of the overall feeling right now. Hattiesburg did not happen last night. It did get rained out. Thank you to BD for having a standstill and still performing for your fans. I know that's a pretty important show to y'all. So thank you for giving it back to the fans. Let's see. Boston has moved up into that 94 range. One thing I did notice about scores across the board coming out of San Antonio is that we're not seeing as many of those big 2-point jumps anymore. Things are starting to compress a little bit as far as what the big scoring gaps are. And part of that's obviously because we're doing smaller cleans, smaller tweaks, things like that, as the season is starting to hit its stride and go into the home stretch. So Mandarins had a 1.1 jump, and Phantom Regiment had 2 nights of 1.1 jumps. McKinney and what do you call it? Evansville, sorry. So that's nice. Everybody else is kind of sitting in that 0.5 point to 3/4 of a point jump, which makes it kind of an interesting thing, because that almost 2-point gap that was between Santa Clara and Phantom has now shrunk to less than a point. Blue Devils were living in there between us after San Antonio, and that space has gotten a little smaller. So it'll be really interesting to see when BD does perform this weekend where they end up. Will they end up ahead of Santa Clara? Will they still end up in between Santa Clara and Phantom Regiment? Will they end up in between Phantom Regiment and Carolina Crown, where now there exists a bigger gap? Would that not be shocking? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. The other one to take note of is the Cavaliers and Blue Stars. Now, Cavaliers are sitting ahead of Blue Stars, but with only 1/10 of a gap. That seems to be poor Mandarins. They're on an island all by themselves. 1.5 points between them and Carolina Crown, and basically 2 points ahead of Cavaliers and Blue Stars. Cavies and Blue Stars are still on their own island. Troopers, they actually went down at the St. Louis show by about 3/4 of a point, a little bit more, 0.8. So we'll see if they'll make up that ground again with their next performance. It could have been just a low score for the night. And Blue Knights are sniffing right at their heels because of that. 0.3 of a difference separate them. I know, different shows. We're just having fun. And then the Colts are right in the mix there. So 10, 11, 12, 83.4 up to 83.8. So that's gotten really tight. And it'll be fun to see how that plays out this weekend too. Colts and Troopers, I believe, will be up. I know the Colts are in DeKalb this weekend, so they're not going to be at Southeast. I know Blue Knights are in Southeast. So people are a little bit separate here. And then there's just a widening gap between 12 and 13. 83.45 for the Colts and 80.7 for Madison. So I'm not sure if that is something that can be overcome in the last 2 weeks of the season by either Madison or Pacific Crest, like I said before. But it is kind of a fun little 13, 14, 15 between Madison, Pacific Crest, and Spirit of Atlanta. And not to write out Crossman in that. They're at 78.2 right now. So, exciting. We're going into some really exciting stuff this weekend. I can't wait to see how everything shakes out. And of course, we'll have another video after the weekend recapping all of the excitement. So, remember, comment, like, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss anything. And let me know. Did you go to the St. Louis show? Did you go to the Evansville show? Were you at the Hattiesburg Rainouts? Are you going to any shows this weekend? We have Nashville, we have Birmingham, we have Southeast, we have Night Beat. It's really an exciting weekend of drum corps. Oh, and DeKalb. Fingers crossed. There's some weather in DeKalb. Let's hope that clears out as it does in the Midwest before the show. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk at you later. Bye.